When I was 5, I was in kindergarten. I came home. I was excited to come home. What kid doesn't like being released from school? But I remember getting to the driveway, and that's when I saw the ambulances, and I was confused walking up. And first thing I saw was my mom crying on the front porch, or back porch, actually. And there was a body bag being brought up from the basement doors, outside basement doors. And then my next door neighbor, Clara, was there, and my mom said to go with her, and I just remember asking why. And then I was forced to watch Arthur and not look back into my house for like an hour or so. And then the last big thing was, I remember when I was 5 years old, sitting in my bedroom on my bed, crying and thinking that I should jump out the window just because everything sucks right now. I don't remember what stopped me. I don't remember why I thought that. I know that I wasn't going to see my dad again. So I just thought it's going to suck. I don't have a lot of vivid memories. I just know that sometimes it was tough. I remember actually in elementary school when my mom, she was trying to date. She tried online dating. Probably wasn't as big as it was now, but she somehow met up with a trucker, hated him. She only hung out with him once or twice. Then she met a guy who lived in Florida, and she went and saw him, and I could tell my mom, she was glowing and happy. I mean, I was only in 5th grade, but I can just tell that big difference in my mom. But then they stopped talking, and I noticed just how much it hurt her. So that's actually a big event that's also altered my life, because that kind of helped me turn atheist, because belief is a very strong thing for people. And so that just kind of made me think, how is there a God when all this happens to my mom? It probably happens to other people. I was always the athletic kid. 8th grade, I remember I still liked wrestling, but like when I was wrestling, I kind of forgot about everything. When I played football, I forgot about everything. But when I wasn't doing that, I noticed I was a lot more hot-tempered, just felt like crap, just kind of wanted to be alone. Like, I've never had a problem being alone, but that's where I kind of isolated myself. So as a kid, I didn't know what was going on. Just kind of a lot of confusion, kind of a lot of hate, sorrow, just everything bottled up. As kids, when it first happened, we were kind of suggested to go to a place, talk about everything, but that really didn't help. So I think that's what, I just think it was a person, and it was also church, I believe. So that kind of not help with going to look for help, and others will help me because they probably don't know how I'm feeling. So just really didn't talk to a lot of people about it. I was very selective with who I told about it. And so I was just careful with that information. My mom was left with 4 kids, 3 boys and a girl with Down syndrome. So the fact that she had to raise us all alone, and the fact that, well, she was the one that found my dad. So the fact that she found her husband, she was left with 4 kids, very difficult. I remember how difficult we were. Just kind of took a toll on her. I remember not having the best clothes, best shoes. Just kind of looked out for our own. Really not a lot of rules, just kind of did what we did. We were never the people to say I love you. I think the first time I said I love you to my mom was when I was leaving for college. And now I always say to my younger brother, my mom, my sister, me and my younger brother are just a year apart. And we were kind of forced to get along. what really helped our family was an outside influence. He lived down the street. There's 2 brothers, and they actually kind of took Chris on as a brother, best friend. And through them, they really pushed us to play football. We were all big kids, played backyard football. They did wrestling moves to us. It was stupid young kids, but when he matured, he helped us mature. He's like, you guys are brothers, you have to stick together. Helped us with sports. He had a stepson and a kid of his own, and he trained us in the summer. And we were there always on weekends. We helped raise his newborn son. That's how much he had faith in us, that we would make sure that he grew up right, make sure that we looked after him. So he kind of was like a guide, an older brother figure, and a mentor, really. So that's kind of what helped us grow up, because our mom was in shock, really. I talked to my mom. This is part of the healing process a little under 2 years ago. I was like, because I knew my dad drank. Like, I remember the last half year before he did it, he drank a lot. I guess he had a heart attack in February, and there were no signs of a heart attack. From what I heard from my mom is after that happened, he wasn't able to pick up more than 5 to 10 pounds. Couldn't mow the lawn. He couldn't do a lot. Like, the only thing he could do was drink and fish. So I think that stayed the same from February until he did it. And so I'm guessing him being forced to not do what he loved. He was a mechanic. He couldn't do a lot. And I'm guessing from pressures of the family, fighting of the family, and just him being unhappy, not being able to do the day-to-day things that he loved. He loved mowing the lawn. I remember my mom saying that. He loved it, and he couldn't even do that. So I just think that kind of put a huge strain on him. And so that's kind of when everything was brought into clarity for me, is after talking to my mom about it. And then I actually sought help from a counselor on campus too. In a way, I thought it would be too hard for her to talk about it, but she was waiting for us to talk to her about it. So it was just kind of waiting for a comforting time. Mm-hmm. I just got done taking a semester off, and I started figuring everything out. I was returning to school. I was in a very healthy relationship. I didn't notice I was going back into depression, because I'm like, I'm so happy. Things are going so right. How can I be going back into my depression? So I kind of noticed during winter break, I distanced myself from my girlfriend, when talking to the kids. I was very short-tempered. And then after my girlfriend broke up with me after we returned to school, just said things weren't the same. At the time, I didn't really notice everything that was going on with me. So I thought I was doing everything right. So that kind of just hit me square in the gut. And then just that kind of, it wasn't just a breakup that brought my world crashing down. It was me realizing everything isn't as good as I thought it was. And I remember going out for a drive, because driving and music really calms me down. But good thing I had self-control, because I pushed my car about 100 miles an hour. I knew the roads exactly how they were laid out. And then I just remember thinking this would be the best place for me to do it. I won't hurt anyone, and I'll only hurt myself. But I didn't do it. I drove home, and I'm like, I really need to seek help. So it wasn't a quick fix. I went and talked to my mom, and everything was fine. I still go through depression. Last fall was, not this past one, but the one before that, when I was still at Eau Claire, was the worst thing, because I go through insomnia, depression, and I just wasn't happy with life. I knew I didn't have a future in Eau Claire, so I wasn't sleeping till 5 or 6 in the morning. I slept in through classes. I really didn't care that much. And so depression still kind of had a hold on my life, but there were no suicidal thoughts with it. So I've been free of that, but talking about everything kind of brought everything into perspective, which suicidal thoughts was the main thing I wanted to get rid of, because I never wanted to do it. I don't want to hurt my mom like that again. So, but that's kind of what shaped it. My world feeling close-knit, perfect, to crashing down on me in a week. And so I think that just kind of linked with seasonal depression in a way, because winter, it's gloomy, especially in northwest Wisconsin. It's cold and just no one wants to be there. But I just feel like that was a huge part. And then the breakup, my knee, I was starting to realize that I didn't have the grades to get into the program, and just kind of, I didn't have a job at that time. I'm used to always having a job. I go crazy if I don't. I also try and make it so I can support myself and not rely on my mom. So, but I just feel like all that kind of just, depression was the biggest thing, and then the breakup probably was a huge part. But it's frustrating to go through knee surgery, not playing football. That might have been a big thing too. Brandon, his family, my family never brought it up. I know Brandon, he's not the most emotional person, so that's probably something I wouldn't hear from him. Me and my brother don't connect emotionally a lot, so probably didn't hear anything from him. No one during school said anything, no teachers. I was close with a lot of them because I was always a good kid. So no one really, if they noticed something, they didn't say anything to me. And it was kind of awkward. My football coach was a counselor, so never really sought help from him. Coaches could have said something like, you're a little off. I was still pretty young with the head football coach that was there. He stepped down after sophomore year, but he was always really good with communicating, everything like that. But just someone could have been like, hey, something feels off. Like, is there anything going on? Teachers could be like, hey, you're always smiling, but now you're kind of pushing everyone away, being by yourself. Really just calmly coming up to me, like not making a big deal of it, but just be like, hey, I noticed past week or two or month, you're acting this way. Normally you're always smiling, happy, talking to people, but now you're just listening to music and you have your head down the whole time. My biggest thing was I didn't feel anyone could connect with me, and no one made the effort to talk to me about it, so I just bottled it up. I used athletics, music, working out. I used that as my coping skill, and it helped a little bit, but it didn't get me better. But you can go through life finding your coping mechanisms, finding what you're passionate about. That'll bottle it up for a little bit. But I was always a person, I was fine until one moment I would break down and everything would just fall, my world would fall around me. But I think the biggest thing is no one approached me about it, and I didn't know who I could trust. And so if a teacher or close friend, if they came up to me and talked to me about it, I would be more willing. But it seemed like if people didn't notice it, then obviously it's not that big of a deal. So just the biggest thing is you can't make a difference if you don't ask about it. It went on for about 2 months, the transition from being isolated completely and miserable to taking the steps to recovery, really. I feel like you're always in recovery because it's not going to go away, but you can live life a lot happier. It might throw you off a little bit. You might have to find a way to make changes, deal with it a little bit better. But suicidal thoughts probably happened a month or 2 afterwards. And then when I was seeking help, they've stopped. I haven't had a suicidal thought since. I've always, since I was 5 years old, the first memory of when I wanted to commit suicide until after I sought help, and it was pretty much the middle to middle end of the semester of my junior year, the spring semester. That's kind of when everything stopped. Depression still went on, but I knew that suicidal thoughts weren't good, and I didn't want to do it. I just didn't know how to address it. This past fall, before October, I was starting at my position, and then I went through my depression, and the whole week was terrible, and coach barely played me. And I talked with him. I'm like, hey, I actually went to him and be like, this month is gonna be weird for me because of this. And he's like, I understand. So he knew we were both on the same page, but it still affected me enough where I couldn't concentrate and just kind of felt not as energetic, but I wasn't thinking about suicide. It feels more of it's kind of in my biology now where it's gonna happen. The internal clock, it knows just when it's gonna be off. But ever since I've sought help, really, in spring semester, my junior year, that's when all suicidal thoughts kind of stopped. Biggest thing was talking to my mom, because the biggest thing was not knowing why he did it. It's still not perfectly known, but that's what I'm gonna assume, and it shows that it's not that he was unhappy with me, my mom. Like with that, there's a lot of self-blame with a lot of people. I know someone who just recently had a dad commit suicide, and a lot of the stuff that she was feeling, I was feeling when I was 5 years old, and I felt it all the way up till I was 21. I still feel some of it, but it's just how you react to it and how much you let it control your life. Sometimes you don't let it control your life, but it influences it. People that go through things and tell their story, in a way, that's how they influence other people. After I address my issues, I know that they're not gonna disappear, but I know that when something's happening, I have to be self-aware. I know about the times. I know October till it starts getting sunny out again, till like March-ish. That's when it can go away and come back. And so that's when I need to be more self-aware, so I don't isolate myself. I don't quit talking to people. Like, that's when I notice that I'm gonna have to try and concentrate a lot harder for a lot longer. It's just, I become more self-aware so that when things happen, I can address it. And that's when I utilize coping skills most. And like, I love stargazing, going out for drives, like everything's a healthy way. And I do open up to my friends a lot more. Like all my roommates, I told the whole offensive line, which was about 15 to 20 people. I'm not too worried about what people think. I'm more worried about if I can help them with something they're dealing with. And kind of looking at everyone, it's just, you kind of feel a respect, especially with guys that you're practicing with every day. Like, people kind of respect you a little bit more. And sometimes they still joke around and make fun of you with certain things, but you could tell that it's like, not everyone knows the battle that we've been through, but it's just, people appreciate the more they learn about you sometimes. You might not be able to make the biggest difference, but my goal is to affect one person. That one person can affect two people. Like, it's exponential growth. Being a part of that experience of having my dad commit suicide, you really don't know how you're gonna affect people, but you will. So as much as you wanna think that you won't affect anyone by leaving the world, you will affect someone, and it's gonna haunt them forever, especially since most people who commit suicide don't leave a reason why. They don't leave a note, they don't send an email to someone, they just do it, and they leave questions. And so if you have a brother or sister and that happens, or you're a parent, that's going to stick with them for the rest of their life. The only way that you can change that is if you break the chain. You can either go with it or break the chain. And that was my goal for my life, was to break the chain. I told myself I'm going to do it. And at that time, everyone who meant everything to me, Brandon, his kid, Connor and Tyson, they call me uncle. It's like, why are we going to see Tony anymore? Like, that hit hardest. So, and my mom, I don't know what my mom would do if she lost me to suicide, because she lost her husband to it. So you just have to remember who's closest to you, and they'll be affected most. I have a lot planned. I want to personal train. Like some people, their body image is the biggest thing they hate, and I want to make them feel healthy. So I want to do that. I want to work with high school kids, because middle school football, high school football and wrestling was a factor that saved my life. So I want to coach kids. I want to work with them one-on-one. I want to be the guy that's just like, hey, if you need this, come talk to me. It's like, you need a ride. It's like simple stuff like that. And then that just builds a personal relationship. I'm all about just being personal with people. I'm perfectly fine with telling people I've been suicidal since I've been 5 years old, because my dad did it, because I felt like one of the biggest parts of my life is gone now. So I'm going to share whatever information. It's going to touch people different ways. But I'm going to let people know I've been there, but I've been working through it. And the worst thing I've done was do it by myself, because you can't do everything by yourself. So the biggest thing is showing that you're human, you have feelings, and the only thing you want to do is help them. That's the only way to approach it. It doesn't matter what you say, how you say it, it's showing them that you care. It's about what you say and how you say it. You don't even have to say anything, you just have to listen sometimes. And so that just proves it doesn't matter what you say, just being there, helping them, showing that you actually care. That's the most important part. Be active with trying helping people. A smile, a wave will go a long way.